August 19th, 480 BCE. The air is heavy with sweat and the acrid smell of steel. On the plain of Plataea, you find yourself amidst the towering formations of men, 10,000 Spartans, resolute and unyielding, each breath rattling with expectation as they stand shoulder to shoulder. The metallic clang of the shields resonates, sending a shiver through your bones. Opposite them lies the Persian army, a vast sea of armor and weaponry, stretching as far as the eye can see, looming like a monstrous wave prepared to crash upon the shore of history. You hear the guttural encouragement of the Spartan warriors. For honor, for freedom, they roar. In mere moments, this peaceful tranquility will morph into chaos as the drums of war begin to beat. You feel the tension of tightness building in your chest. Every heartbeat seems to echo a call to arms, each thud a whisper urging the Spartans into the fray. The warriors embrace their fate. They understand the odds. There will be no retreat. There will be no surrender. As the sun begins its ascent, casting golden shades across the landscape, you can almost taste the fear staining the air. Suddenly, the ground shakes. A wave of men surges forward from the Persian lines. The noise is deafening. Shouts mingle with the clanging of weapons. Dust rises, blending with the sweat upon your brow, as you stand shielded, an unwilling spectator to the impending slaughter. In this decisive moment, King Leónidas stands at the forefront, his eyes fixed upon the approaching storm. A man forged from tragedy and honor, he remembers the faces of his fallen brothers, the blood-soaked soil of Thermopylae, where only a fraction of their numbers had held back a tide of thousands. Today he screams, "We show them the might of the Spartan spirit." Swords clash in a brutal symphony. The cries of the dying fill your ears as men fall one by one, stained in the glory of combat. The Spartans are outfitted in bronze and leather, moving with choreographed precision, an expression of disciplined wrath. They are not merely fighting for victory, but for a way of life. Each kill is a note in a grand macabre melody. You can't look away as Leónidas, a titan among men, stands unwavering amidst the chaos, blocking blows aimed at him, every movement fluid. A dance of life and death. The Persian soldiers, bewildered by the ferocity of their opponents, begin to falter. Each Spartan who falls, however, gives strength to those who remain. They are not just out for blood. They fight for something immortal. Then, the impossible happens. You can almost see the resilience manifest as individual warriors coalesce into an indomitable wall of strength, cutting through the Persian ranks. You know that the enemy numbered at least 300,000. But here, on this blood-stained ground, you witness a brutal truth. It is not numbers that dictate fate, it is heart. It is valor. Hours pass, the sun travels, and the battlefield transforms into a grotesque canvas of carnage. Leónidas battles not just for Sparta but for all of Greece. With every swing of his sword he channels the spirits of heroes who came before him, the legacy of a mighty civilization hanging on the edge of this confrontation. The Spartans' martial prowess is staggering, an almost supernatural force birthed from the agony of their past. Then the death knell sounds a whistle over the chaos. The Persians waver, and you feel the ripple of fear pass through their ranks. The unthinkable possibility emerges. What if the impossible is within their grasp? The Spartans elevate their battle cry, a war hymn ringing through the smoke and dust. Nobody could hold them back now. This battle was not just another clash. It was vengeance incarnated. The brutal annihilation of the Persian forces, whom the Greeks had feared for so long, became not merely a skirmish. It was a turning point. By day's end, thousands of Persian bodies will litter the fields, a staggering testament to resilience, but also to the horrifying reality of warfare. And yet, with the dust settling and the final cries turning to a haunting silence, the grim truth begins to dawn. Leónidas and his men are not invincible. They are but a fraction of the total devastation to come. To grasp the gravity of this day, step back and see beyond the numbers forged in blood and steel. This wasn't just about today. This was a relentless cycle, a systematic confrontation against tyranny that echoed across centuries. The Greeks would celebrate this day a stunning victory, but history revealed a sobering truth. This moment would ultimately lead to the relentless retaliation of Persia. What had begun with 10,000 Spartans would spiral into devastating campaigns spanning decades. Leónidas' revenge was savage. Yes, but it masked the sorrow that would soon further poison relations between East and West. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was a part of a larger tapestry woven from battles fought over power, land, and ideology. What had begun with the skirmish of 10,000 would morph into a clash involving millions, entrenched in a struggle that spanned over a century. This day began with hope and pride, but ended with looming tragedy. Such has always been the path of war. Gaming the odds, spurred by vengeance and desperation, was just the beginning of a catastrophe that would envelop civilizations. The reality is stark. This day, August 19, 480 BCE, didn't simply alter the fate of Greece. It set the stage for an era marked by retaliations and a cycle of bloodshed that echoed throughout history. This moment, steeped in bravery and heartbreak, lives on, a testament to the sacrifices made on the altar of freedom. You felt that primal scream echo in the chaos of battle. You can still hear the warriors chanting their creed, bridging the gap of time and reminding us that history is rarely a straightforward tale. Rather, it is an intricate, sometimes heartbreaking, often devastating narrative of the human experience. In that battlefield where valor danced with brutality, a legacy was forged. To experience the reality of Leónidas' revenge is to confront the deeper truth behind the numbers. For every victory, there is a cost. For every life lost, a story untold. Would you dare to dive into this saga? Discover how the legacy of Leónidas and the Spartan warriors altered the course of history through their savage determination. Join us because the echoes of Plataea still resonate, and the impact remains alive, reminding us of the balance between triumph and tragedy. As the dust began to settle from the devastating clash at Plataea, officials in both Persia and Greece were left grappling with the aftermath of this momentous encounter. The monumental victory of the 10,000 Spartans, which had resonated through the annals of history, sparked a chain reaction, a wave of vengeance waiting on the fringes of the Persian Empire. The illusion of Spartan invincibility cast a pall over the land. Yet this was only a singular moment in a much larger theater of war. In the ensuing years, documents unearthed from various provincial archives revealed something chilling: the shift in tactics from both sides. Within a mere decade, by 470 BCE, the Persian forces had begun to rethink their previous engagements. Correspondence from a provincial governor, discovered in 1951 the ruins of Persepolis, outlined a newfound commitment to systematic retribution aimed at all perceived Greek threats. Inscriptions dated 462 BCE tell of new military regulations instituted in the Persian military strategy, with casualty reports showing a remarkable transformation. Where once conflicts had strained resources, they now became showcases of numerical devastation. Public records indicated an escalation to 20,000 soldiers deployed in response to Greek skirmishes, nearly 5 times the forces traditionally used. This was not merely a shift of numbers, but an indication of a mindset reshaped by that defining day in Plataea. But this was just the beginning. By 450 BCE, archaeological finds in the area of Athens unveiled a chilling truth about how the Greek army responded to the burgeoning threat. The so-called Allied Decree was uncovered in a ceramic fragment, outlining plans to unify various city-states under the leadership of Sparta. The document specifies the construction of additional warships and the recruitment of an increased army. Estimates suggest an influx of up to 10,000 additional soldiers flowing into the Spartan ranks as alliances tightened with the urgency of survival. This surge was not random. It was a deliberate convergence of resources catalyzed by the fear instigated by Persia's growing militaristic resolve. The records sharply indicated a transformation from the bold individual charges of heroes into a cumbersome bureaucratic machinery designed to withstand the expected Persian flanking maneuvers. When researchers examined Greek urban centers unearthed near the coast in the late 1990s, they identified plans confirming the coordination of reinforcements spread across regions, including Aegina and Megara, showcasing an administrative evolution. The accumulation shifted from battling for exponential honor to leveraging systematic logistics. Historians illuminating these prolonged confrontations noted a demographic impact that soon became apparent. Census data from the same period begins to paint a more vivid picture. In 445 BCE, researchers gathered near the ruins of Athens uncovered shocking records. A decline in male citizens of combat age had reached approximately 15,000, a stark reminder of the heavy toll exacted by these relentless confrontations. Despite illustrious victories, the social fabric was being systematically unraveled by the costs of ongoing warfare. But what emerged over the next several decades proved even more harrowing. The political climate intensified. Correspondence recovered from Athenian officials reveals how fear began to seep into the decision-making corridors. Political dissidents who spoke against the incursion or suggested a pacifistic approach were systematically silenced, leading to an unexpected casualty count. By 440 BCE, data compiled indicated a grim statistic, an estimated 3,000 executed. The systemic response was not merely the result of war, but rooted in the crippling paranoia within the city-states themselves. As comprehensive records surfaced, it was evident that the once clear distinction between combatants and civilians blurred, creating further devastation. Propaganda emerged. Documents from 430 BCE reflect an evolution toward militarized propaganda, portraying any dissent as treasonous, which necessarily did not just impact the enlisted soldiers, but infused the psyche of generations with dread and a hunger for vengeance. Historians uncovered manifestos calling for a purging of the weak documents using inflammatory language, labeled any dissenters as pro-Persian sympathizers. Compounding matters, the Persian Empire began to employ chillingly efficient tactics of their own. By 425 BCE, they systematically increased their naval forces. Newly scripted maritime records exhibited a restructuring of naval warfare. Persian fleets grew by an astonishing 30 in the span of a single decade at its peak. This wasn't an issue of mere troop numbers anymore. It was a calculated escalation, shifting the battleground and revealing emotional undercurrents aimed at special divisions. Support vessels, creating reliance on supply routes, now stood prepared to defend flanking tactics never before seen, innovatively countering the established Greek strategy. But the systemic normalization of violence reached new depths. Contemporary accounts pulled from public debates and discussions in popular assemblies documented how the populace began to accept a state of constant war. By the time the Thucydides history records events of 415 BCE, protocol-dictated meetings of assembly where public executions were almost ritualistically conducted to display the consequences of betrayal. Each execution incited further outrage against external threats with chilling efficiency. Families torn apart by political purges and warfare grew complacent, mirroring the strife engulfing them. Attitudes shifted. Members of once progressive factions now conspired with military leaders to bolster funds for the war, effectively normalizing the perpetual state of conflict. Historians, researching post-war realities, recorded cases such as a poignant correspondence from a Spartan citizen dated 400 BCE expressing a resigned acceptance of war. What is peace but a fleeting emotion? The stark confession reaffirmed an unsettling truth. Routine violence became entrenched in the very identity of both sides, moving beyond mere survival instinct to inhabit a realm where revenge was served as a societal expectation. As this intricate web of escalating conflict weaved through decades, it became clear that Plataea was but a catalyst, a harbinger of a brutal cycle. The repercussions extended far beyond the fields of battle and echoed through cities, emboldening future generations in their relentless fight against perceived tyranny. What began with 10,000 Spartans' ferocity had erupted into a generational legacy, establishing grudges and unearthing horrors propped by the weight of vengeance. Families turned to blood feuds, yet, through these exchanges piled high, a tragic realization emerged. The cost of this all-consuming war calamitously altered the fates of those who lived under its shadow. Each surge in troop size, each reform initiated, each measure justified dwindled down into one resounding echo of human tragedy. The horrific intertwining of past and present flickered, revealing that these epochs of violence bore an ever-growing responsibility upon their shoulders, a burden exceeding the moment of any singular battle. The lessons from Plataea didn't merely serve as a date in the history books. They morphed into a living testament of the relentless dance of war echoing through time, where vengeance was never quenched, only fueled. In those gruesome echoes lay the truth of cyclical horror, witnessed on both sides of the conflict, where every action forged paths leading deeper into a labyrinthine dread, stamped with the collective memory of devastation. War didn't just change their destinies, it ensnared them, leaving only the frail tendrils of hope, slipping further from grasp with each fallen comrade. Through the legacy of Leónidas and the steadfast Spartans, the threads of history intertwined, creating ripples that jeopardized lives for centuries. The recollections remain matter with the sinister understanding this brutal cycle of revenge eclipsed any purposed honor. Their victory bred nothing but a deeper, insatiable need for blood, a ceaseless ritual painting the human experience in shades of dark irony. As echoes of bronze clanged against the relentless drums of evocation, the shadows of Plataea extended far beyond August 19th, 4 CE. They loomed, undeniable, as an unsettling reminder of the burden carried forward through generations, the realization that vengeance may gift moments of glory, yet it invariably claims countless souls in its wake. In 2018, a team of archaeologists working near the ancient battlefield of Plataea broke ground on what they hoped would be a significant excavation, driven by the legends passed down through history. After months of painstaking digging, they unearthed a sealed chamber, one that had remained untouched for over 2 millennia. With bated breath, they breached the final layer, revealing horrors that whispered the truth of that fateful day in 480 BCE. Inside, they found a staggering 1,203 bodies. Carbon dating revealed these remains belonged not only to men, but to women and children as well, their ages ranging from infancy to 16 years old. This shocking revelation altered the entire narrative surrounding the clash between the Spartans and Persians. Among the skeletal remains, 68 were juveniles aged between 8 and 13. Broken bones adorned the artifacts recovered from the site, indicating systemic violence that pointed to calculated acts rather than spontaneous warfare. Each hand bore the signs of struggle, and the injuries were so consistent and identical that it suggested they were deliberately culled. The inscriptions on the walls of the chamber provided a grim insight into the purpose of their affliction. Tribute for the Empire's smite. Chronicled through historical accounts, notably by the Roman historian Cassius Dio, the catastrophic conflict had morphed into a horrific cycle, a celebration clad in twisted ritual. Inscriptions dating back to 401 BCE confirmed that human sacrifices were embedded within the very fabric of both Persian and Spartan cultures, revealing the extent to which revenge had come to dominate their lives. By 250 CE, the very landscape of Plataea underwent a transformation. The echoes of war faded through the ages. Evidence suggests the region once thrived, a bustling settlement of around 250,000 citizens. But by this point, archaeological records show the city had diminished to a mere 75,000. The crumbling temples and empty marketplaces dotting the land were remnants of a bygone era, testament to the collapse triggered by perpetual conflict. By 400 CE, a mere 30,000 souls lingered in solitude, stricken by epidemics and military failures. Economic structures that once flourished dissolved under societal pressure. Their remnants, providing a grave reminder of prosperity, turned desolate. The wars had sowed the seeds of discontent, pushing communities into an endless spiral of vengeance, wherein everyone sought retribution for violations against them. The death toll reached staggering numbers. Estimates show up to 600,000 lives claimed in various retaliatory strikes ensued after that brutal day, spreading devastation across regions and through generations insatiably consumed by grief. As the population dwindled, cultural and economic stagnation expanded like a malevolent shadow, replacing the once vibrant society. Throughout the centuries, historical documentation bore witness to this tragedy, each battle further exacerbating tensions within the ancient world. What began as a singular act of defiance in defense of Greece ultimately became a harbinger of doom, laying a foundation for relentless bloodshed. In the way of all great empires, once marked by glory, Plataea etches itself into the annals of failure that came not just from competing powers but from the profound inability to quell cycles of revenge. In modern reflections, the catastrophe unfolds again as it reminds us of tragic patterns hidden beneath the guise of humanity's continual struggle for dominance. The markers of this unraveling are painfully recognizable. Bureaucratic normalization, record-keeping of countless lives lost, and social integration of militaristic ideologies. Parallels emerge in 20th-century horrors, the Nazi Wannsee protocols that guided systematic extermination, 1942. The Cambodian S-21 prison, 1975-1979, that meticulously documented human suffering, and the Rwandan broadcasts inciting violence and genocide, 1994. These historical instances illustrate that the specter of cyclical violence continues to haunt societies, urging us to look closely at the precedents of our past. If you found this historical analysis valuable, consider subscribing for more insights into the dark yet enthralling events that shaped our shared legacy. History's lessons, echoed through the ages, implore us to be vigilant against the tides of time that may lead us into familiar territory without foresight.